welcome everybody. Thanks for coming out. Exciting time of the year. Seems like yesterday, when the season wraps up, and the good news is it went into the summer last year, and did a lot of great things, and you try to keep that momentum going, and so we had good fall, great weather, had a chance to go to the Dominican Republic. Awesome trip, did wonders for us. Good spring training, good weather. Sunny Louisville, Kentucky has been great to us. So, we're a week away, from the season starting. So it's an exciting time of the year. And as always, you're never 100% healthy, but feel good about our talent, feel good about our depth, and great opportunity for several guys. And as I told the players, at practice, I'm not a big fan of announcing the starting lineup. And as I looked in the past, it's amazing. There's players you don't talk about as much in this press conference, and 3 weeks later, they're in the lineup every day, or they're freshman All-Americans, and it's just human nature. You trust the older guys, you talk mostly about the older guys, but there's always talented young guys that will step up, and we seem to do a good job of taking those first 10 to 15 games and realizing that's probably not the lineup at the end of the year, but these guys deserve to be the lineup at this time of the year, and then we'll kind of play it from there and see how it goes. And but I feel good about our depth because I know there are several guys that have earned the right and the opportunity to get some at-bats, play the field, and get on the mound and help us get better as a club.
We got mics around the room. If you'll use those, please.
And you mentioned the Dominican. What benefits do you feel you got out of that?
You take a team to the Dominican, for baseball, there's twofold. There's the baseball experience. You're playing a passionate, baseball-driven country. You're playing a lot of talented players, mostly professional. So these guys are already in the professional ranks. Some are big leaguers, so it's neat for our guys to see how they stack up against AA, AAA, some big league guys, but all pro players. And it's a good message for them. It really opens their eyes because they realize, okay, in a year or two, I'm gonna be playing against these guys, and trying to be one of the 800 big leaguers in the world. So from our trip 4 years ago, I think 20 players were drafted off that team. That was the team, and I looked in the picture. McKay and Solak and Smith and Ellis and Funkhauser and Ray and all those players, Stores, Taylor, McClure. I hate to leave guys out, but there were so many. So I figure from this year's group, the baseball experience really prepares them for the next level. And then the opportunity to serve, when you serve in a third world country, you realize how good you have it in America. And I think just to give your time and give your heart to others is very uplifting. It really helps you grow. And my challenge to the team when we got back was the flame is lit. So let's keep the flame lit now. Don't let the flame burn out, because we did a great job in the Dominican, and we did. We had, I think we led the country in community service hours per baseball team, 25 hours per player. That gave back to the community, whether it was in the DR or right here in our backyard. So as our theme somewhat higher, that was an area we definitely went somewhat higher, was serving in the community.
Dan, you talk about obviously not wanting to set lineups during practice, but you got two pretty good pitchers at the top of your rotation in Bobby and Reed. Just how much confidence does it give you knowing you have two guys of that caliber who start off the weekend?
We've said all along, we figured we were going to be ranked pretty high, and it started on the mound. No disrespect to our position players, but when you return Detmers, Miller, and Smith, three of your top four starters from Omaha last year, when you return Elliott, Kirian, and Poland, three of your top four relievers from last year. So when 6 of your top 8 arms come back and you finish third in the country, with good position players, you feel like, okay, we're probably going to be ranked pretty high this year. And we tried to prepare the kids before Christmas as to what the rest of the country will think about us. And you have to be mature in how you handle that. So yeah, I think it's easier to look at your top 10 arms and go, okay, these guys they're getting the ball, and barring something crazy happens, that they'll take us hopefully to Omaha. And it's usually position player wise, it's just a little trickier. You want to see how they perform when the lights are on, and you want to give them enough opportunity and try to play the hot hand.
Dan, what are some of the more notable improvements you've seen throughout the offseason with this team?
Well, it's usually guys are changing positions. Nick Solak went from, a converted left fielder back to second base. And Drew Ellis went from left field to a natural infielder, shortstop, third base to first base. And so it's usually this time of the year where we're just trying to get guys comfortable at a different position. So Justin Levy, who started his career at third base, finished last year at second base, we gave him the opportunity to be the everyday shortstop. And he's looked really good over there. So if he's the shortstop, okay, and he was your everyday second baseman last year, then who's playing second? And so Lucas Dunn, who was in center field for the second half of the year, comes back and spends most of the fall in the middle infield. But then you also have Jared Poland, who played games at second. You have Tim Borden, who's worked at shortstop most of the offseason, but realized, okay, he might have to play second. We moved Zach Britton and Cam Masterman to left field, and Zach started his career as a catcher, had a injury last fall and just was rusty by the time the spring came around, and settled in real comfortable in left field. And Cam Masterman was a third baseman, first baseman, and man, they look so comfortable in left field. So you just want them to be comfortable out there. Danny Oriente, who's bounced around, is in right field. So the fall and the spring training for us is just defensively getting guys at positions that they feel comfortable at. Versatility is a powerful thing, and they see the value in the big leagues and the guys that can play multiple positions. And so at some point in their career, they thought they had to be the shortstop, and that was the only position they would play. And then they realized, well, the more positions I play, the more valuable I am, the easier it is to get on the field. Even at the next level, the more valuable you become. And so, and then Coach Williams with the pitchers, he does a great job, usually with the young arms. Most of your young arms, if not all of them, they come out of high school, they're starters. Persecki, Webster, Cooner, Hawks, they're starters. They've been starters their whole life. And now you're a freshman in college baseball. So, like Reed Detmers, his freshman year had to come out of the bullpen. Like Bobby Miller had to come out of the bullpen. Didn't mean they didn't end up starting as the year went on, but I go back to Brendan McKay. His first outing was an inning or two down in Florida at the opening weekend tournament, and he threw in relief probably his first 3 or 4 outings. And then before you know it, he's the Saturday starter, and oh my gosh, you got a superstar there. So that's just part of coaching and realizing where do we think these guys will fit in, and let's get them comfortable. And so for those young arms, get comfortable running out of the bullpen, and as we like to say, you get put in some ugly situations and runners on base, and you didn't create the mess, but you inherited the mess, and that's just part of the growth process. And so our coaches have done a good job with that.
Dan, a lot of coaches in a lot of different sports, they try to play a high ranking down. How do you approach that with your kids?
Yeah, I don't know. We've never played it down. I'm not judging anybody else. We just have to be mature about it. I mean, we brag about our accomplishments. I really don't feel like reading our resume because I feel like I read an awful lot in the recruiting world, so I'm not going to do that today. But it's the expectations. That's why they came here. The positives, it gets your fan base excited. Obviously gets recruits excited. And we do believe. You have to say it, you have to see it, you have to believe it. But we've always done a good job. We talk about goals, we write them down, we put it out there for the world to know. But once the season starts, we respect our opponent, and we really want to be where our feet are, and just, hey, that's why we hang a shirt in the dugout, that we're just Friday at Ole Miss, we're trying to play good baseball first and foremost, but hoping to get a win and get shirt number 1. And that's really, when the season starts, that's what we focus on. And I'm confident we'll do that this year, this group.
I remember when Kyle Funkhauser came back for that year, and he, after the season, he even kind of talked about it. Look, it was an adjustment because when I came into this thing, there was a huge expectations on me as a player each and every time I took the mound. Do you worry about that with Reed? Because it seems like he's going to have those same kind of expectations placed upon him this year.
I think it's something they embrace, they look forward to. I've always thought our young players really learn a lot from the older players. We have a saying, the front of the room leads the back of the room. So in these seats up here are all the seniors and juniors in the first 2 rows. And we always challenge, these guys have to lead the guys that sit in the back of the room. And so I think as a young player, Reed watches Adam Wolf and he watches, All-American type players who go through their career and they get to a point where they're the guy and you learn a lot from them. So Reed's got a great demeanor about him. One thing I try to do is when they fill out their goal sheet, we have them put down 3 personal goals. You'd be surprised. It used to be hit 330, steal 25 bases, hit 15 home runs. And it used to be, win 10 games, have an ERA under 3, have 100 strikeouts. And it's really transformed over the years where guys aren't putting that down anymore. Brendan McKay didn't put that down. He was preseason National Player of the Year, and I was worried for him because where do you go from that? I mean, what do you do? There's 10,000 Division I college baseball players. I mean, they're picking you to be the best. I mean, that's scary. But I just remember reading his goal sheet and thinking, man, he didn't put that down. He didn't put down being All-American. He didn't put down win 10 games. He didn't put down be the National Player of the Year. It was all about what type of leader they were going to be, knowing as an older player, it's really about me leading now. And I have to give back to the younger pitchers, the guys in the bullpen, the guys who struggle, the guys who are not used to struggling, which is usually your young guys. And reading Reed's goals, it was, in a good way, it was very similar to what a lot of players have put over the past few years. And so I don't think he's trying to go out there with the weight of the world on his shoulders. And I've always challenged him that, you just be your best. And it's not strike out more than you did last year, win more games than you did last year. Just try to get better. We the staple sayings, 1% better, stick to the process, put your head down and stay focused. I mean, we're still preaching the same things.
Bobby, on the flip side of that, this kid who came on really strong, pitched really well in Omaha. Just how much improvement have you seen from him over the course of this offseason to now?
Rightfully so. Reed Detmers deserves all the preseason credit he's getting. I don't know if the rest of the country realizes how good Bobby Miller is. And they sometimes they get a little caught up with just stats. And the thing about Bobby last year, we tried him as the closer. We thought because he was durable, he was strong, he would bounce back, he could pitch 2 games in a weekend. Just wasn't going well that first month. And give Coach Williams a lot of credit. Our job as coaches is to put these guys in positions to succeed. So it's not what we want or what we think, it's where they're going to have success. And in Bobby's case, we pushed him back into the rotation, but he one hit a team in the super regionals and got overshadowed because someone else threw a no-hitter. And he only got to throw 4 innings in Omaha because of a rain delay. And I just, and then he pitched the gem here in the Sunday night or the Sunday elimination game in the regionals, against a good offense. So, we feel like he's got talent to be a superstar. If you've seen him pitch or you talk to the pro world, I mean, it's electric. It's you sit there and go, wow. And he's worked really hard. And usually, you know, usually your I don't know, your Batmans need a Robin, your great pitchers need a sidekick, and I love looking back. Your number ones need a number two, and that internal competition. So I'm sure there's a part of Bobby that he thinks and would like to throw on Friday, and that's okay. I mean, why shouldn't he? You know. And then again, I think Luke Smith probably thinks, and you know, so I guess we got three guys who, you know, are confident enough, and we even talked about that with like what catcher they throw to, because we always use two catchers. I like having multiple catchers and just looking in their eyes and explaining to them. I hate to say it, but I mean, it doesn't matter. You know, just run out there and dominate. I mean,
Some of the guys have mentioned how hard it was to hit Bobby in the fall. How much better has his stuff gotten?
Man, it's, you know, his only downfall sometimes is you get a little velocity driven, and you know, it's you know, you like to see the scoreboard, you like to see the velo, and you know, it's fun for the fans. Sometimes it's fun for the players. So, and that's partly all of our fault because everybody promotes velo, and that's the sexy thing, you know, when a guy throws 95 or 98 or 100. So when he pitches, he doesn't have to throw 98. He can. He's just, if he hits his spots, trusts his ability, you know, we'll compete. And I always say that the whole key to starting pitching is you got to pitch your way off the field. You create the mess, or the defense created the mess behind you, and you got to pitch your way out of the mess. That's what makes the great starters, you know, the McKays and the Funkhausers, and you go on down the list, they can pitch their way out of jams. And Bobby started to mature, grow in that. But the stuff is electric. And as I'm looking forward to our weekend rotation, running out there and competing. And I think the catching competition goes hand in hand with the pitching competition, because they both, Metzinger and Davis, have caught better this year and this spring, and they're offensive and they're competing, and we always say it, competition is the healthiest ingredient for an amateur to want to get better.
Kind of the same thing about Detmers that he asked about Miller. Where do you see his improvement? What do you expect out of him this year?
I think what you always see with the maturity of these guys is just developing a third pitch. You know, so for Detmers, whether that's the cutter or the changeup, you know, sometimes it's a fourth pitch. You know, McKay kind of developed that cutter as a junior. You know, you got the fastball you can locate, you got the big curveball, and it's what's going to be the third pitch and the fourth pitch. So, like Miller, I think where Luke Smith made the jump last year was the changeup. He developed that second or third pitch, and so if you say great starters have to pitch out of jams, well, usually great starters have to have a third pitch, because if you're going to go through the lineup multiple times, you know, the first or second pitch eventually they're going to get to, and so seeing Reed with the cutter and the changeup, you know, like I said, as well as Bobby and Luke, has really taken their game to another level.
Couple more, please.
Coach Luke Smith had his moment in the College World Series. How does he grow from that, and what did you tell him after that?
Yeah, he you know, for an up and down year and some good starts, some not so good starts, he really came out in that was the Sunday night regional game, the must-win game. Pitched a phenomenal start for us, and the offense got going, and then he carried that, you know, over into Omaha. And so he's an emotional kid. He uses that sometimes, the chatter from other players and other dugouts, to fuel him. But you know, he learned you can't cross the line, and it's part of the growth process. You know, it's just part of growing up. And I think you ask any coach, would you rather have a guy here that you got to bring down, or a guy here that you got to bring up? I mean, I'll speak for myself. Give me the guy here that I got to tone down a little bit, because the guys that I've met with over the years, and I've challenged them to have more emotion, more fire, more gusto, more competitiveness, more juice, more energy, it hasn't worked. as well as the guys that, man, they are ready to go, ready to compete. And, you know, Luke Smith, man, you flip him the ball, you feel really good about the competitive effort he's going to give you. And so he learned from it, and he's got a big heart, great kid, voted team captain. And but don't get me wrong, he's not going to be nice this spring. I'll tell you that right now. I mean, he's just, that's not his style, and I'm not gonna make him be who he's not. I'm gonna let him be who he is.
Let's wrap up with Chrissy and Dominique.
Coach, are there any freshmen standing out to you who you think may have an immediate impact on the season?
You got to have freshman arms. Just with the roster limits and the scholarship, you got to have young arms every year have to pitch. We've had 4 freshmen. Ryan Hawks is a right-handed pitcher, and 3 left-handed pitchers in Prosecki, Cooner, and Webster. You know, 4 freshmen that will pitch, and usually those guys, they get thrown in relief roles, long relief, short relief. They get midweek starts. You know, you look back at McKay, you look back at Detmers and Wolf and all those young arms early in their career. Those 4 freshmen can really help us this year. So, you know, position player wise, even though we lost, you know, Fitzgerald and Snyder and Campbell and Pinkham and Wyatt in that group, we had a good young group behind them. And so we feel like, you know, we're still pretty old in the field. We brought in 2 junior college position players. I mentioned Britton, Oriente, Masterman, Levy, Dunn, all these older guys. But Dalton Rushing is a freshman left-handed hitter who probably had as good a fall as maybe any hitter, definitely for power. And that's usually, you know, there's a saying in baseball that power comes. The older they get, the maturer they get, power will come. You don't see a lot of young kids show that much power. So we just got to keep him grounded, not let him try to force it. And I'm a little concerned about him because he's opening up, you know, in his backyard, about an hour from where he grew up. So, you know, right now, you know, he's trying to hit it off the football stadium. And so I just got to tone him down a little bit, and he doesn't have to carry us to play good baseball. But I think it's gonna be fun watching him compete and giving him opportunities, and but ultimately let the older guys run with it.
And Dan, for you as a coach, when you have experience with new guys early on in the season, how much do you like to experiment with things maybe on the field, maybe even things that you might like to use later on in the year?
You can't be afraid. We're not trying to lose a game early on, but you know, I've just learned a long time ago you can't be afraid to lose in February if it'll help you in May or June. And you just got to give guys opportunities. You got to trust them. How do you know if this guy can come off the bench and get a hit in the 8th unless you give him an opportunity? You know, how do you know if this guy can run out there and make a catch in the 9th unless you give him an opportunity? How do you know if this guy can steal a base or not in the 11th when you need a stolen base unless you give him the opportunity? So I don't know, just try to be bold, try to be confident, just show these guys I trust them. And again, emphasize our depth, that, you know, we've got depth. We don't, you have to be able to endure a couple injuries. You have to be able to endure a couple guys struggling. That's going to, you know, you're not going to have all 9 guys rolling. You're not going to have all 9 guys healthy. And I hate to even say 9 guys, because I feel like we probably got 14 or 15 in some form or fashion that could help us win. And they have to help us win, because I'm going to give them opportunities and play them. And so, like I said at the beginning, let's use these first 10, 12, 15 games and see what the right combination is. And hopefully the sooner we get the right combination, the better we'll play.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, guys.
Adam, how much pressure are you feeling going into this season with the high ranking?
Not that much. I mean, we always talk about how we got to take it one game at a time. So I think it's kind of a big thing as we go into it. Obviously, the high ranking being preseason number 1, it's kind of a target on our back, but it's a long season, so we got a lot to live up to. But it'll be fun.
Good. I wanted to ask you this specifically. I follow your mom on Twitter. How does it make you feel that basically all of your teammates are her favorite Cardinal?
Yeah, we were actually talking about the last night at dinner. I had dinner with her, and she was talking about how she said Levy was her favorite all-time player, and she was kind of teasing me about that. But just all fun. She loves getting on Twitter and tweeting at guys, so it's fun for her. So I'm not too angry about it.
You still got the favorite spot?
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure.
How does it make you feel going into this season with the title of Mr. 330?
It's pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. Just like all the hard work and stuff.
See it paying off.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it adds any extra pressure to what you need to do when you walk up to the plate every game?
No, not really. I just come ready every day to compete, no matter what happens. Just trust my abilities and know that if I don't get it done, my teammates will get it done right behind me.
Okay.
So it's just playing together.
Yeah. Do you have anyone in the freshman class that you feel like is standing out over some of the other guys who you think will make an immediate impact this year?
Yeah, we have a great another freshman class coming in. The freshman class that I came in with was terrific. This one is just as good, maybe even better. With all the pitching, hitting that we got, there's not really one freshman that I can say that sticks out, but they're all competing for a spot to play and get some good playing time as a freshman. It was pretty cool.
All right, what does it mean to you to go into just your second season as a captain already?
It means a lot. It means I appreciate the faith that my teammates have in me. And at the end of the day, that's one of the most important things, is being able to have the trust of your teammates and the respect from them.
Yeah. Do you guys find yourselves playing this season with a little bit of a chip on your shoulder after the way last year ended?
You could say that. Coach Mack's goal for us this year was to go somewhat higher. Having the best finish in school history last year at third, there's only a couple more places we can go up from there. So, national championship's our goal, but at the end of the day, you got to take it game by game and day by day.
Do you find any of the preseason accolades adding a little bit of pressure to your performance this season?
No. I kind of enjoy taking those on. Kind of gives me something to work towards. Other than that, no, I don't really think about it. I try not to think about it because it's just something I don't really want to be remembered for. I want to be remembered as like a good leader, good teammate, stuff like that. So, not really.
Good. So what is a message that you try to instill in the younger guys to kind of mentor them and show them that leadership that you have?
I just say have fun. Play the game that you know how to play, and just have fun with it, because if you put all the stress on you, things aren't really going to work out, especially here in a good baseball program in the ACC. With all that stress, things are going to go downhill very quick. So you have to be positive, help others, and good things will happen.
Perfect. Thank you. What kind of improvements do you feel like you've made in the off season to benefit you this year?
I made a lot of adjustments after last season, going into summer ball, played in the Cape Cod League, against some of the best competition in the country. Made a lot of adjustments at the plate, made a lot of adjustments in the outfield, and I feel really comfortable, ready to start the season.
What's one thing you learned from Cape Cod that you kind of want to bring with you into this year?
Just the consistency, having a routine that you stick to every day, and especially facing those high-level arms up there, kind of gave me more confidence coming back here. And I feel really good.
And what's one message that, and I asked Reed this too, that you kind of instill in the younger guys to bring that leadership out in yourself and to motivate them to work as hard as they need to succeed?
Like I said, it's just all about consistency and having a consistent mindset and being okay with failure, but making sure to learn from it. And that's one of the biggest things in this game. You got to learn from failure, and you got to adjust when you're not performing at your best. So I think that's a big thing for the young kids to learn as they get older.
Perfect. Thank you.